Hey everybody, Jeff here. I want to walk through very basic input and output here on Python. This is an area of confusion that I get from a handful of students each term. Um, and I'm also going to show you how to use the kind of interactive, what's called the console here, the Replit console at the same time, because this is a really good way for you to test some of your code that you'll end up writing in your main window, which you'll end up writing and saving and then ultimately uploading as your assignments here. Let's just start with a basic input statement, which is something that looks like this. We're going to say answer is equal to input, and then inside parentheses we're going to say what is your color, question mark. Okay, when I run this, you'll see what happened here. I'm going to get printed to the screen what I have inside the quotes, and the program is going to stop and wait for me to give an answer. And I type an answer, and you can see when I get back to this little triangle here, this prompt, it means my program stopped. You can also see that the program stopped because this run icon had turned back to green. Let me show you that again. I click on it. It's showing me that my program's running, and I can click stop if I want to exit, or I can just enter my input. Now, if you see here, I entered my input, but I didn't do anything with it. So now let's do something with it. So I'm going to create a print statement, and this print statement can have multiple arguments. That's what each of these things are called. This is an argument, this is an argument, and this is an argument. When I put something inside double quotes or single quotes, that is going to be presented exactly like it's shown here. But if I have it without quotes, then it's going to be a variable here. And what we should see here is if I did this right, it's going to take my answer that I processed using the input statement, assign its value to the variable called answer, and so when I print the variable out, I get to that response. Now, one of the common mistakes I see from students is they do something like this. And then they want to use yes and no to help make decisions. So let's run that and see what happens. So it prints out yes, and it's waiting for me to enter something. So maybe I just type X and hit return. And then it's doing the same thing, and I type Y and hit return. So what do you think the values are of yes and no in this example? So if we print that out like this, and we try that again, oops, let's try that again. You can see the variable named yes is assigned to the value X, and the variable named no is assigned to the value Y. This is the common problem that I see, because in an example, and I just got this example from a student, I've seen it before, so this is not, calling out this student as making, a unique, assumption here. This is a common problem. The next line of code might be something like this. So if we try that, let's see what happens here. I get an error message here because this value yes, oops, sorry. I need to put back input answer. Oh, I can't type, sorry. Answer equals input, enter yes or no. So I get my input here, and so let's say I type in yes here, and then it's asking me again, and I type X or Y, And what happens here is that line 8 does not evaluate to true, because if it did, line 9 would print. Okay, and so the problem here is you don't want to ask the user to enter yes and to enter no to assign them to hard-coded values of yes or no. Instead, what you want to do is do a comparison like this, where your answer variable is compared to the exact value, and that's why I put strings, or that's why I put quotes around this yes, to show that it's a string. Okay, so now, oops, I missed my equal. Common mistake. Now if I enter no, it tells me I answered no. If I entered yes, it tells me you answered yes. Note this user experience issue right here. It's always good to put like a question mark space or a colon space or something to separate the input from the prompt. And so that would be an example of that. Okay, so this, whenever I see code that looks, whenever I see something that looks something like that, that is a warning flag that you're trying to create values to compare to. The general rule of thumb is that this value of answer could be anything. It's whatever I type in, right? And I might type in something that is not what you expect, and your program has to handle that. Okay, last thing I'll show you really quick here is we can do a lot of this coding here in the console, just as an example. So I can do something like that. And now I can print my value. So you can see that I can also do things like I can evaluate expressions, which we'll talk about in the next weeks to come. I can do comparisons. Okay, that did not work. Why did that not work? Oh, because I didn't indent it. Let's try that again. It's harder to do the things like that with the indentations inside the console, but you certainly can. An important point I want to show you. So if I run my program, let's see if it remembers. It sure does. It remembers what's happening here. So when your program fails and you get an error message or something's happening over here that you don't like, remember that you can directly type in things here, and you can try to help figure out what might be going on right now. Okay. This material is presented in that very first Python unit. There are some other videos, Professor Iyer and others, that show the same type of thing. If it's any bit confusing, 2 pieces of advice here. One is go back and watch those videos, pause them, and do the exact same thing in Replit like I'm doing here while you're watching the videos. You can reproduce what I'm doing side by side as you're watching the videos. You could type whatever you want, because you will just experiment and learn. And the other thing is that don't be afraid here to experiment here. Make sure that this assignment 1, you got it down before you jump ahead to the next part of the assignment. Questions, let me know.